Okay, we're back with the redemption race. In case you missed the last time that PS sent footage in, I'm going to link that in the corner right now. But this is Team Chaos versus Team Underwood pretty much in a Tuesday night crit series in Omaha. Those are the two major teams represented, and really there's only a handful of other riders that don't have teams. PS, who recorded and sent me this footage, is on Team Chaos. That's this red, white, and blue looking kit. The other major team, Underwood Cycling Club, is in this green Rafa kit. And just to quickly recap what happened in the last race that PS sent me, don't chase your teammates. Same teams, same course, and actually Team Chaos ended up taking the win. PS's teammate took it from a breakaway off the front, but they made so many mistakes along the way. They were chasing each other down and doing a bunch of weird stuff that hopefully they don't do in this race. So let's dive into it, see if they have some better strategy and take down another win. All right, so right off the bat, in the notes that PS sent me, along with this footage, he told me that the team's strategy was to control the race and keep it together for a field sprint. I'm assuming that they wanted to do this because they had faith in their field sprinter to seal the deal. Now, number one, having a strategy as a Cat 4 is pretty cool. I think a lot of Cat 4 guys just jump in the race and hope for the best. But these guys had a plan. Turns out they didn't execute this plan at all, and I think there might be some confusion on what controlling a race actually means. See, Team Chaos has like 6 riders in this race, and so does Team Underwood. And like I said before, they represent the majority of this field, those two teams. So if you're Team Chaos and you want to control a race for a field sprint, what that means is you have to sit on the front and you have to keep it really fast. And the good news is, on a technical course like this is very achievable. Through that whole bottom section where there's a ton of corners, there's really only one good line, and by the time you're exiting one corner, you're already setting up for the next corner. This makes it incredibly difficult to make a pass and to get a gap. So if you're Team Chaos, in a perfect world, what you do is you take 4 domestiques or worker bees and you put them at the front. And their job is to keep the speed really fast and to push through the wind on the front. Remember, almost all of the resistance when you're riding a road bike is just pushing a hole through the wind in front of you. So if you have your teammates behind you drafting and your sprinters behind you taking a rest, well then that means they're only doing a fraction of the work as the riders in front of them, and they're going to be really fresh when it comes time for the sprint finish. And then if people want to try to attack, let them get a little gap off the front. But remember, there's 4 other Team Chaos riders that are going to be sitting at the front of the race, controlling the speed and reeling back those breakaways. So you have a distinction on roles. These 4 guys on the front are all rotating at the front, controlling the pace. You see this carry out in bigger pro races. And don't get me wrong, this is really hard to coordinate. But if you get it right, then your sprinters are going to be fresh. They're going to not have to respond to any surges in pace or any accelerations, and they're going to be positioned just right when it comes time for the sprint finish. But instead, it seems like they're racing for a breakaway. They're just doing constant attacking. Like right here, you can see that there is one Team Underwood and one Team Chaos rider off the front. They're going to start working together. And honestly, we're, 3 minutes into this race? And this is almost the end of the race right here. Think about it. You have the 2 major teams represented in this breakaway, and that pretty much nullifies about 90% of the field. And there's only a handful of other solo riders who are going to be able or willing to chase that back. So, God, this is reminding me of the last race that PS sent me. What he's got to be doing right now is looking at those individual riders to do the work to bring this back, and they're probably going to be more willing to, I'd say they're going to be more willing to bridge across to it rather than to chase it back on the front, because nobody wants to chase back on the front and just drag the whole peloton with them. And it looks like he's already missed one opportunity. That one solo rider on the front just rolled off the front. Like, I don't know why the Underwood rider and PS here just let that happen. And PS is just so out of position right here. This is the same problem he was having in the last video. He needs to be behind those solo riders that missed this move. That way he can be in their draft when they try to bridge across. But now we're doing 19 miles an hour, we're doing 0 watts, and that breakaway is getting away, and this might be the end of the race. So Chaos must be happy with who's in that group from their team. But here we go. There's that solo effort that I knew was coming. This is predictable. And that Team Underwood guy who's in his draft, he had the right idea. That's where PS should have been. See the guy in the green jersey who was right behind that one solo rider? That guy's doing it right. He was in the draft of the attacking rider, which means he was doing just a fraction of the effort that PS is having to do right now, who is out of position. He's having to sustain 600 watts here. This looks really painful. And he's still losing the wheel. So it's a big effort, and that's the result of being out of position. Okay, so that breakaway was brought back. The race is all back together, and That one stung. That one hurt our buddy PS here. You can see the result of that is he is not very confident, and he kind of lost his snap in these corners. And look at this gap that's opening up. I mean, this is huge. And part of it is PS is still new to this sport, so the bike handling skills and the confidence in the corners, that's something that's going to come with time. He's got the engine. There's no doubt about that. PS puts out some big power. But on a course like this, it's very unforgiving. You have to get these corners just right. Otherwise, look at this. Look at this. Is very threatening, you know? This gap right here, if those front riders look back and realize that gap existed, they just can turn on the gas, and maybe this is race over for PS. But he burns a match, claws his way back, gets a little bit of rest, and look, he even puts in this attack. So I told you, PS is a strong dude. He just has to have confidence in these corners. And let's see how he takes this. Hey, that looks pretty good. You know, he carried most of his speed through that. I don't think he could have pedaled through the apex, so that looked pretty good to me. But I guess so much for keeping it together for a field sprint. I mean, I don't know if they ever even started with that plan, but at least they're racing aggressive, which I like to see. They're not just sitting in and kind of waiting for things to play out, being really passive, because, I mean, I guess you could win a bike race that way, just sitting in and hoping things work out in your favor, but you have to get lucky and things have to fall into your favor. So PS gets brought back, and then his teammate immediately counterattacks. So I guess this is plan B now. I guess instead of controlling the race, they're going to try to break away from the race and force Underwood to do work. I guess that seems like the new plan to me. I don't know if like their sprinter got a flat tire or if he was just having a bad day or what. But that seems like the new plan. And yeah, I mean, PS is just a little sloppy in these corners. And when it's going real fast like this, you really want a good wheel to follow. And you can see coming in, this is the headwind section too. Like, this is brutal. This is hard to watch. 182 beats per minute. But like I said, PS is new to this sport. He's going to get much better at technical skills. It probably wouldn't hurt for him to go out and do a technical skills clinic, because he's pretty much going to be able to get free speed if he learns how to take these corners more efficiently. And like before, PS has to burn a match to make his way back to the field, and right when he does, here goes this Underwood rider on the left. So PS responds and chases it back, but it's so delayed and there's so much hesitation, that really ends up costing him a ton of energy. If he was right on his wheel, he could have been in that draft, and this could have been a completely different story. And I think that's the result of closing down all of these gaps through the corners, and he's kind of losing the snap left in his legs, still with 10 kilometers to go. So he does make it up to this Underwood cyclist's wheel, and he makes a really good decision right here. He is not going to pull through, and this is really smart of PS, because in his notes that he sent me, he told me that this Underwood guy, who's giving the elbow flick right now, it's funny, he told me this Underwood guy's got a powerful sprint, so he's like, I'm not going to work with this guy to bring him to the finish just to lose in this sprint. So smart move, selfless move, and that's just good team racing right there. All right, and now here is where things really fall apart for PS and Team Chaos. This attack by the Underwood rider off the front immediately opens up a handful of seconds. And now it's down to PS and his one remaining teammate, who is about to take the front and just completely empty his tank. Meanwhile, PS is going to struggle back here through these technical corners. These other guys are just going to sit in, get a free ride, and this is kind of how Team Chaos unravels in this race. And after PS's teammate gets about halfway there, he just completely runs out of steam, and the big counterattacks come, leaving only PS from Team Chaos to respond. And it is the most brutal-looking pain dangle I think I have ever seen, but in fairness, he eventually makes it there. The problem is he's just spent so much time out in the wind burning matches that he is just seeing cross-eyed at this point, and the prospect of having a good finish is not looking good for Team Chaos right now. And yep, PS eventually gets popped off the back of the lead breakaway group, which now contains one Underwood Cycling Club rider, and then I want to commend that one solo rider who kind of sat back quietly the whole time and let the whole Team Chaos, Team Underwood thing play out, and now he's in the lead group. He ended up taking second behind the Underwood Cycling Club rider who outsprinted him at the line for the win. Team Chaos missed it this time. They went third and fourth from the chase group, despite having the most numbers in this race. So, lessons learned, I think they should have stuck with their original plan and just tried to control the race start to finish. I think they had the numbers to pull it off, but instead they were just overly aggressive from the start. By the midpoint of the race, they're pretty much just out of riders. On the other hand, Team Underwood, patient, sat back, kind of waited for things to play out smartly, and then at the end of the race, when it matters most, they had the firepower, they still had the riders, and they made their attacks count. I think that's the main point here. Team Chaos, they did a bunch of probing attacks that weren't particularly significant. Underwood waited, and then finally delivered the haymaker that resulted in the win. So, as always, thanks for hanging in there, guys, and I will catch you at the next one.